Companies are always pressured by their boards of directors and shareholders to grow, grow, grow. They do this by entering new product markets or launching their current products into new geographies. These are big, risky projects. So they hire consultants to come up with the right market entry strategy. That means when you interview with consulting firms, you'll likely get a market entry case. By the end of this video, you're going to learn the exact approach on how you can solve any market entry case and be one step closer to your consulting offer. In this video, we'll cover how to build a robust market entry framework, how to use that framework to drive through a real market entry case, and cover an example of a market entry case. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you 3 tips on how you can practice and master the market entry case interview skills that you'll need to pass any market entry case. Hi, my name is Davis. If you want more videos like these about how to solve different types of case interview questions, then hit the like button below and I'll create more. First, what is a market entry case? A major North American car manufacturer wants to enter the Chinese market. Your local brewery wants to start selling hard seltzers, or you yourself want to launch your own management consulting firm. All of these are examples of market entries, which is that an organization or a person wants to expand their service into a new market. And they're the most common type of cases that you'll encounter in your consulting interviews. That's because companies are always looking for new opportunities to expand into new markets. And as a result, they hire consulting firms to advise them. Thus, if you're going to master any type of case interview question, start with the market entry, since you're most likely to come across these types of cases. And the foundations for mastering the case interview for market entry will give you the foundations to master all the other types as well. There are 2 major types of market entry cases. The first is when a firm wants to sell a new product in an existing geographic market. For example, your local brewery wants to start making and selling hard seltzers. The second type is when a firm is selling an existing product but in a new geographic market. For example, a North American car manufacturer who wants to enter China. These are not easy decisions to make. They're complex and high stakes. For example, it costs a lot of money to expand your car manufacturing from North America to China. And if they make a bad decision when they should have entered another market, such as, let's say, Germany, it will set the company back years and often involves the CEO and the leadership team being fired. This is why companies often hire consultants. Next, what are the most important considerations when deciding to enter a new market? On a high level, there are 3. 1, should we enter? Will it be profitable? 2, if so, can we enter? And do we have the capabilities? 3, if so, how will we enter? Will we do it ourselves or do it through an M&A? Let's dig deeper into each. Should we enter? This comes first because if the opportunity is not profitable, there's no point in exploring the rest. Questions you want to ask are, what is the size of the market? What is the growth rate of the market? What is the market share that we can achieve? What is the initial investment needed? What are our expected profits? And what's our break-even period? Let's assume the answers to these questions confirm that we should enter. Now, the question is, can we enter? Questions you want to ask are, do we have the human capital, including technical skills and knowledge of this new market? And if not, can we develop or acquire them? Do we have the manufacturing, distribution, sales infrastructure needed? Are there barriers to entry, including any regulations? If so, how can we handle those? If you've gotten to this stage and determined that entering a new market is attractive and feasible, the final step is determining how you plan to enter. There are 3 primary ways to enter a market. 1, you can do it yourself. 2, you can partner with a firm already in the market. Or 3, you can acquire a firm already in the market. Which approach you choose depends on the barrier to entry, your ability to overcome those barriers, and the speed at which you need to do so. Now that you understand the approach to market entry cases, let's apply it to an actual case example. This case comes from the Wharton 2017 casebook and has been slightly modified for the purposes of this video. And by the way, if you're interested in becoming a management consultant, check out the link below to schedule a free strategy session with my team where we'll walk you through step-by-step how to land your dream consulting offer. First, the interviewer will give you a prompt. Our client is Inspectors R Us, a third-party home inspection company who conducts inspections when a home is sold. The client currently operates out of Ohio, and they have hired us to determine if they should expand to more states. If so, how? This is a market entry case where a firm is selling an existing product, but in a new geographic market. Now it's time to ask some clarifying questions. Here are some questions that will clarify this case, as well as the answers the interviewer might provide. What is our client's goal and metric for success? Answer. The goal is to increase the top-line revenue. As I said earlier, companies are always looking to grow, grow, grow. Are costs a consideration? Answer, yes, but the goal is to focus on revenue growth. What type of inspections does our client do? Answer, only single-family homes. How many states can we expand to? Answer, only 1 to begin with. Does the client already have a list of states they want to look into? Answer, yes. They're focused on Colorado. Are there any regulatory hurdles to entering Colorado? Answer. Colorado started allowing 50% of their market to be inspected by third-party firms 2.5 years ago. By asking these clarifying questions, you've learned a lot about the client and its goals. Without exploring them, you might have started exploring 49 states in the United States rather than just focusing on Colorado. Once you've asked your clarifying questions, ask for time to structure your thoughts. Let's dive into creating frameworks. We use the high-level approach we outlined earlier. 1. Should we enter? 2. If so, can we enter? And 3. If so, how do we enter? But you can't just use this generic framework. You need to make sure we customize it to this specific client situation. This includes offering hypotheses, proposing analyses, and introducing industry knowledge as well as terminology. Let's start with question 1. Should Inspector RS enter Colorado from a financial perspective? Here's the framework we can deliver. To answer question 1, there are 2 questions I'd like to ask. 1. Is the Colorado market financially attractive? 2. Would our firm be profitable in Colorado? Let's start with, is the Colorado market financially attractive? This breaks down into, what is the size of the Colorado home inspection market? And how is the Colorado home inspection market expected to grow? As I present this branch of my framework to the interviewer, I'd mentioned my hypothesis is that the number of single-family homes will grow since there are a number of people leaving other states, such as California, for lower-cost states like Colorado. Next, would our firm be profitable in Colorado? Profitability breaks down into revenues minus costs. Let's start with revenue. The basic revenue equation is the number of inspections times the price per inspection. Let's look deeper into each of these 2 factors. First, the number of inspections. I'd explain how the primary driver behind the numbers of inspections are the number of homes available for third-party inspections and the number of third-party competitors already in the space. Next, the price. The primary driver behind this are the cost of homes and people's willingness to pay based on their income and the importance and difficulty of the inspection. Now that we've done with revenues, let's move on to costs. I will remind the interviewer that since our goal is focusing on top-line revenue, we don't need to worry about costs too much, but a few factors include 1. The upfront costs, such as the office building, license fees, and cars to commute to homes. 2nd, our fixed costs, such as equipment and marketing. And 3rd and finally, our variable costs, such as labor, gas to commute to homes, and the materials needed to complete each inspection. Next, I move on to question number 2. If the finances are attractive, does Inspector RS have the capabilities to enter Colorado? This breaks into what skills are needed in Colorado, and do we have access to labor with those skills? Regarding the skills needed in Colorado, the main question we need to ask is, are Colorado homes different from Ohio homes? Would inspections require different skills? For example, I would tell the interviewer, even if I've never been to Colorado, I might have a hypothesis here. So I might tell the interviewer, for example, that I would imagine there are more ski or vacation homes. If I want to take it a little deeper, I could also talk about the water supply and well inspections. For example, I might have read about the fact that water is in short supply in Colorado due to climate change, reduced rainfall in recent years, as well as a highly regulated water rights, especially for water coming through Colorado and the West Coast. You don't have to have this knowledge going into the case, but it's important that you show an awareness that each market has its own unique factors at play. So for example, had they been in Colorado for this inspection job, it might have to do with the water. But if you're in another one, such as e-commerce, you might say that the supply chain might be an issue. The second piece is access to labor with those skills. For this, the main question is labor available in Colorado and how would their salaries differ from Ohio? I would tell the interviewer that my hypothesis is that we would have to pay employees in Colorado a lot more than in Ohio because I suspect that the minimum wage is higher as well as the cost of living. Lastly, we move on to question number 3. How should Home Inspection Co. enter Colorado? I outlined that there are 3 options. The first is to open its own branch. I explained how this would require the previously mentioned upfront investment of an office, cars, and marketing to get the brand out. Second, I partner with an existing home inspection firm in Colorado. I'd ask if there's a unique value that we can bring to this partnership. Is there a unique value that the partner could bring that we don't? Finally, acquiring an existing home inspection firm in Colorado. I'd ask if there are owners looking to sell for non-financial reasons that could be attractive. Or is there an advantage by entering the market quicker than if we try to open up our own branch? Now that I've laid out my framework, I tell the interviewer that I would like to start by conducting a market size analysis to make sure the market is even big enough to be worthwhile, so that we calculate the market size for third-party home inspections in Colorado. I start by outlining my approach without any numbers or calculations. I start with the population in Colorado, break it down into the number of households, break down the number of households that are single-family homes, multiply by the frequency those homes are inspected, multiply by the price of the inspection, and factor in the government's limit on third-party inspectors. Once I've aligned with the interviewer on my approach, I'll fill the data in. For the population of Colorado, we can start with the US population, which is about 330 million. And I know there are 50 states, which means that on average, each state has about 6.5 million people. Of course, there are some states that are large populations like California and small ones like Wyoming. From what I've heard, I'm going to assume that Colorado is in the middle of that. So let's just go with the 6.5 million. The number of households, I'm going to estimate that the standard household is about 2.5, which is that there are some people who have kids, some who are single, and some who just live with someone else. Number of single family homes. So I've never been to Colorado, but I'm going to guess that there's more rural than there is urban. So I'm going to say that about 75% of the households are single family homes. And the interviewer might come back and say, actually, well, it's closer to 90%. If that's the kid's situation, I'll use the 90% and not the 75%. But the fact that I came up with a hypothesis and then asked shows the interviewer that I'm thinking through things in a logical manner. Frequency. You only need a home inspection once you move in. From personal experience, from what I know from other families and friends, they typically move every 10 years. So I'm gonna guess that a home needs an inspection roughly every 10 years. Cost of inspection. This can be an entire market sizing and pricing exercise alone. But since the cost of inspection is just part of the larger market sizing we're doing, I'm gonna keep it simple and I'm gonna ask the interviewer what they plan to charge. But I might have a hypothesis. For example, you might say, great, so I was too young when our family moved into our home, so I don't know the cost of inspection, but I'm gonna guess that based on the cost and so forth, that it might be in the ballpark around 200 to 300. And let's say that the interviewer comes back to you and says, well, you can assume 300. And finally, recall that the government limits inspectors, third-party inspectors to 50% of the market. So now let's do the math. 6.5 million people divided by 2.5 people per home approximately equals 2.6 million homes. 90% of those homes are single family homes. So that's roughly about 2.34 million single family homes. Inspection happens every 10 years. So I'm going to divide the number of homes by 10 because I'm going to assume that 10% of those homes get inspected every single year. So that leaves us with 234,000 inspections per year. And I'm going to multiply that number by $300 per the cost of inspection. So that equals roughly about 70 million. And the government gives third-party inspectors about 50% of the market. So I'm just going to divide by half. So half of 70 million is 35 million. So I'm going to estimate that the annual market size is 35 million. Now it's time to answer, so what? Why does this even matter for the client? So it's 35 million. Is that good or bad for the client? So every time you do an analysis, you just don't want to end the analysis with a number. You want to comment on it. That's what consultants do when they work with clients, is that they don't just arrive at an answer of a question, but they also think about what are the implications to the client. So what? To me, I might say, this seems like a solid size. And if the population frequency of inspections or the price can change over time and increase, they will impact the growth over time. Now, let's look at the competitive market. How much of that $35 million can we actually capture? Well, since the government only allowed third-party inspections about 2.5 years ago, my hypothesis is that there's probably very few competitors. But I can always ask the interviewer to clarify that question. But I want to present my hypothesis that there are very few, and that we can actually capture a lot of the market given there are very few competitors. What other factors are important to our decision? So we've addressed question number 1 and determined that we should enter this market from a financial perspective. Now I tell the interviewer I would like to move back to my framework and move on to question number 2. Do we have the capabilities to even move to Colorado? Are there specific skills needed? In order to understand this, I'd like to explain that I want to learn how homes in Colorado are unique. I've said that I've never visited Colorado, but I know there are a lot of mountains compared to that of Ohio. Then I would ask, are there any homeowners we could speak to? For market entry cases, it's good to talk to customers in the target market. Perhaps the interviewer already tells you that they've interviewed some homeowners and shows you this transcript. I have a townhome in Denver, but also a house in the mountains in Evergreen. Everybody in Colorado knows that water is in short supply. In Denver, I'm on the city water, so water capacity is not an issue day to day. But in Evergreen, I'm on a well. There have been several dry years recently, which impacts the water well level. If the well isn't deep enough, we can run out of water. This means constantly being careful about how much water we're using. For example, taking really short showers. When you get new information in the case, whether it's in the form of an exhibit, a graph, or a text-based line like this, you want to draw insights, synthesize them, and then share it with the interviewer. For example, I may react by saying I had no idea about the water supply issue, and that my biggest takeaway is that we need to inspect whether the wells can provide sufficient water. Even if you're not an expert on this topic, you can say that this does sound different from inspecting homes for structural integrity or even electrical issues. So we may need to learn some new skills. Once I've explained this insight, the interviewer may or may not want me to dig deeper. They may just acknowledge that I've made a good point and that the client is confident they can address this issue, and so that we can move on to further analyses. Now that we know that financially it makes sense to enter the market and we can develop the capabilities to enter the market, we're only left with one question, which is question number 3. What should our market entry strategy be? Should we start from scratch? Or maybe we acquire a company to enter the market with? You can move the case forward by having a hypothesis and having a discussion around it. For example, I might say, it seems the largest factor is speed. Is there any advantage to entering the market quickly? I know there are very few competitors since the government only allowed third-party inspectors 2.5 years ago, but if we wait too long, we may see an increase in competition and will capture less market share. Plus, an existing company would already have access to labor. We should definitely explore potential acquisitions to see if the valuation makes sense. Finish by asking if we have any data on that. I might then transition to ask if we have any data or potential targets we're looking at. That way the interviewer can tell me if this is a route that the client is taking or that the interviewer wants me to go down. Again, the interviewer might not want to dig deep into this, but the fact that you already raised the question and state a hypothesis tells the interviewer that you're thinking about the right questions and the right issues to raise to the client. As the case wraps up, either because you've completed the analysis that the interviewer wanted you to do or time is running out, the interviewer may ask you for a recommendation. Here, I'll take 15 to 30 seconds to collect my thoughts and then deliver my recommendation as if I'm presenting it to the client in a crisp and clean manner. Our client asks if they should enter the Colorado home inspection market. I recommend that our client enter this market because it's a $35 million market and the market is growing with very few competitors. I also want to recommend that we enter via an acquisition because speed is critical, and through an acquisition, we would also have access to labor and the needed new capabilities and inspect wells in a watertight region. The risk to my recommendation is that we haven't decided which acquisition target to take, and thus we might be exposing ourselves to paying more than we need to than if we entered the market organically. So if given more time, as a next step, I'd like to start sourcing acquisition targets to consider. So that's an example of what a market entry case looks like and how to apply your framework. As promised, I'm going to share with you my top 3 tips for how you can practice a market entry case and crush your consulting interviews. 1. Ask questions throughout the case when something doesn't make sense to you, especially in the beginning of the case. Having a company enter a new market involves learning about that market. You're not expected to know everything, but you are expected to ask the right questions so you can learn quickly. 2. Consider the logistics and not just the financials in a market entry case. It's not enough for the market to be financially attractive. Your clients need to have the capabilities and the right strategy to enter. For example, you can make a lot of money digging oil wells, but if you don't have the capabilities to do it, you won't be able to enter the market. 3. The fastest way to master the market entry case is to practice cases available online, but also in your own life. For example, if you're out in town one day, brainstorm ways that the local restaurant you're eating at or a dessert shop you just passed by can enter new markets, and then create your own frameworks for how you would assess if it's the right opportunity. If you do this, you'll not only master market entry cases, but you'll also be able to master case interviews in general a lot faster. And on top of that, by doing cases in your real life, you'll also decide if consulting is the right career path for you. If you enjoy thinking about these problems in your day-to-day life, consulting might be the right career path for you. So there you have it, everything you need to know to master the market entry case. Now, if you're 100% serious about landing your dream consulting offer, I highly encourage you to check out the link below to schedule a free 30-minute strategy session with a member of my team. And we're going to walk you through step-by-step how to land your consulting offer. My team and I at My Consulting Offer has helped over 600 people just like you land their dream consulting offer. But you don't have to take my word for it. Hear from a 𝗲𝗲 who used our program to start her career in management consulting.